Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Flash by Pamela M. Weston. It was a wonderful day when Mr. McDonald gave the young Alsatian puppy to his son. For you, Jim, Dad had said. His parents were guard dogs, so he's got the right background. Just watch him. Mr. McDonald demonstrated the young dog's obedience by giving him a few simple commands. Many a person owes a great deal to the intelligence and devotion of a dog like this, he added. Maybe he could teach me a thing or two, grinned Jim as he watched the small dog spring to attention. He was amazed that the puppy even seemed to understand when it was safe to cross the road. Jim named him Flash. From that day on, Jim and Flash were inseparable friends. Everywhere the boy went, Flash went too. And that's the way it was 5 years later on Jim's 14th birthday, when Jim and his dad were returning with Flash from a trip to the Scottish sheepdog trials. Flash was riding in the back of the truck, for by this time he had grown so big that he took up too much room inside the cab. It was dark when they set out, but Dad figured that if they drove hard, they would arrive back at the farmstead in good time for the early morning milking. They had been traveling for some hours. Now they were in a part of the country noted for its lonely passes and hairpin bends. Dad was driving slowly. "It doesn't pay to take chances on roads like these," he commented. Jim didn't say anything. He was looking at the long fingers of the headlights as they picked out the road ahead of them. And then it happened. Two glaring lamps on another car swung recklessly around the bend a few yards in front of them, on the wrong side of the road. Dad swerved and braked hard, but the road was narrow. The oncoming car hit their truck on its side, delivering a heavy smack. With a sickening lurch, the gray truck skidded off the road and plunged down a short bank. It overturned and came to rest, nose down. The sharp impact of the roll made Jim strike his head, and he was knocked unconscious. His father was even more unfortunate, as the steering wheel crushed his chest and broke some of his ribs. But what of Flash? When the truck turned over, Flash had jumped clear, and now he was frantically trying to get inside the cab to his young master. For some time he whined around the window until his God-given sense told him what to do. He must get help, and help meant humans. With a few bounds, he scaled the bank. He looked left and right, but nothing was in sight. Yet, what was that? Instantly his ears were erect. He had heard the sound of the laboring motor of a car crawling up the steep hill. Could it be that here was the help he needed? "Stop! Stop!" he barked loud and clear. But neither the young doctor nor the medical student in the little red sports car seemed to understand. They had just finished a spell of night duty at the local hospital, and the last thing they expected to see on that deserted stretch of road was a dog, especially one acting so strangely. "Careful, Bob," said Dr. Ted Bailey. "That dog seems to be anxious about something." Bob began to slow down. Then, with a flying leap, Flash bounded onto the hood of the car. Whining piteously, he pawed the doctor's arm, which was resting on the open window. At this point, Bob pulled to the side of the road, and both men got out. It was evident now that something was wrong. Flash began to wag his tail. "Well, what is it, old boy?" queried Dr. Bailey as he patted the dog's head. "What are you trying to tell me?" He hastily glanced around him, but in the early morning light his eyes missed the skid marks on the road. Flash barked sharply, ran on a few yards, and returned, wagging his tail furiously as he did so. Scampering off again, he stopped short at the point where the truck had left the road. Then he ran down the bank. The doctor and his friend followed and saw Flash whimpering and scratching on the window of the truck. Dr. Bailey wrenched open the door and quickly examined Jim for signs of injury. "No apparent fracture here," said the young doctor. "The boy's had a nasty bang on the head, though. Let's get him out. He can lie on this coat while I have a look at the driver. Looks as though it's a case of broken ribs with him." And so Dr. Bailey and Bob made the patients as comfortable as they could. "Hurry, Bob, and call for emergency service." Dr. Bailey bent again over the injured driver. It seemed a long time before the ambulance arrived in that remote spot, but at last it came, and soon Jim and his dad were in a hospital and receiving treatment. Later on, they pieced together the events of that fateful night. The car that had pushed them off the road was found a few miles farther on, where it had crashed into a tree. The driver was arrested for dangerous driving, as he was under the influence of alcohol at the time. As for Flash, he was given a special doggy dinner in recognition for his part in the rescue, for as the doctor commented, without his help, Jim and his dad might not have been found in time to be helped. But the dog's real reward came the day when Jim and his father were well enough to come home. Flash was there to meet his friends at the door, barking and wagging his tail in great excitement. How good it was to be with them again.
The story you have heard today is from Guide's Greatest Stories, written by various authors and compiled by Randy Fischel, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.